Hi and welcome back to Joe Talks Cars and welcome to another video. This is the last day I have with the Porsche 911 and it's quite a sad day, so I'm actually returning it now to SUV Prestige, who were the guys who lent me the car for this period of time. I hope you've enjoyed the content that I've done with this car. I've absolutely loved having it, and I think upon watching my last video where I summarised the car and spoke about my thoughts about the car, I think I missed a few things out, because driving home I kind of thought a little bit more about the car and how I feel towards it, because the 911 is an amazing car. This 911 is an amazing car. The issue the 911 has is that the Cayman is an unbelievably good car. The Caymans are so amazing that I think the 911 doesn't stack up once you drive a Cayman first. Everyone has told me the Caymans drive better. They do. They drive so much better than the 911. But 911 die-hard fans will always defend the 911. They'll always say it's the absolute king. But I think what it is that there's nothing wrong with the 911. The 911's brilliant. It's just the Cayman is even better. I prefer owning the Cayman. I prefer driving it. The only advantage with this car is the back seat. You can't see, but I've got my daughter with me today. She fits nicely into the back using her car seat. I've spoke about that in the previous video, that some car seats don't really fit in, which is rubbish. You have to buy a Porsche one, but luckily ours, it does actually fit in quite nicely, and she's quite happy back there. So yeah, it makes a better car if you're transporting like a baby or just small children around. The back seat is no good for adults, so don't even consider this to be a four-seater for 4 adults to travel in comfort. They can physically travel in the back of it, but they'll be in a lot of pain after a very short amount of time. But yeah, to really conclude on how I feel about this car is that I feel that the 911, this particular 911, was a case of meet your hero. So a 911 is always a car that I've wanted. I've really wanted one for years and years and years, and yeah, I bought a Cayman because that fit my budget at the time. And since having the Cayman for about a year or so, I thought I could make the switch. I could get a 911. And I was so excited to drive this car and experience what it's like to live with a 911. And I do genuinely feel that this was a case of don't meet your heroes. The expectation of this car was so great that I think it was always destined to let me down a little bit. I'm not even suggesting that I don't like the car. Over the past few days, it's grown on me more and more, and I feel that if I owned it for about 6 months, I think I would genuinely love it. Get used to its quirks, its size, its clutch, do you know, the things that I spoke about that I didn't necessarily like. I think I would get used to them. So I wouldn't rule out getting a 911. But this hasn't made me want the 991. It's made me want to try the 997. It's made me want to try the 992. But the 991, I would say, going by what I've seen from this car, I'd probably rule it out as an option, which is a massive shame. My favourite things about this car is simply the way it looks. It's a nice, big sports car, and it gets so much more attention on the road, which is not necessarily a good thing, and I did speak about that. But it's just got such road presence. It's really nice. It's definitely a car that when you're walking across a car park after parking it up, you turn around and look at it and be like, it's a good looking thing. The white colour, again, initially I was very unimpressed by the white colour. But then after a while, I've kind of it's grown on me as well. So I do actually just like the whole package, the whole design of the car. And the spec of this car is what really interests me. So when I picked it up and I did my first few videos on this, I did touch on this quite a lot. And it's about how this car, with it being a base model, so it's the normal Carrera 3.4, comes with very few options. So it's almost as if they've gone into the garage and specified a car, just a 911. They've just gone in and said, I'll have a 911. And this is what you'd get, more or less. There is a few options ticked, but nothing too crazy. And it's just a nice, simple car. And that's what a 911 should be all about. 911s are about being a sports car, driving it. And the lack of options in this car just appeals to me even more. And I did often wonder, could you live with a base car? Because everything online Everyone you speak to says you need a GT car, you need a Turbo S, you need all of this, you need the GTS as a minimum, like minimum for power and everything. It's not true. What I've discovered with this is that 3.4 litre, kicking out 350 horsepower, is fast enough for the road. It's more than quick enough. My car's a 3.4, it has 300 horsepower, and I feel like it could take a smidge more. But this, with 350, travels across the road like you would not believe. Once you get them revs up, it's absolutely staggering. The speed you can achieve in this is terrifying. So I would say that it's more than enough for the road and that you don't actually need any more power. I can only imagine what the Turbo S is like on the road, and I would love to have a go in one day, but it's overkill for the road, if I'm being honest. Like, there's no way you need that power. The GT cars, so the GT3, the GT3 RS, the suspension must be unbelievably bad on those, because in this, with its adjustable suspension, it's rock hard, like too hard, I think, for the roads around where I live. So if I was to specify one of these cars, a 991, over the next couple of years, how would I spec it compared with this one? Well, I would probably go for a GT Silver, something like that, maybe even blue. I probably wouldn't go for white, but again, wouldn't rule it out. Probably wouldn't choose it as a first option. I would choose the sport seats rather than these, because although they're comfortable, I just lack all my shoulder support in the top there. I would not choose the adaptive suspension. Not only does it lower the car, meaning it's more likely to scrape on things, but it makes it extremely firm even in its normal setting. The normal cars, I have heard, are softer, and my Cayman, running the same size wheels, is comfier without. I would also not choose a manual. Now, people are going to go nuts in the comments, they're going to hate on me for this, but I would not choose a manual 911. I just don't really get on with it. There's too much traffic around where I live. In this short video, heading back to the garage now, we're doing 40 mile an hour in a 60. We've been stuck in traffic back there. You've seen I've been stopped for so much of it. And the clutch is so heavy. For me, it just wouldn't be something I'd want to live with. On top of that is my wife didn't really get on with the 911, which was a massive shame. I was sort of selling this car to her as like a replacement for the Cayman. It's just the same as the Cayman, bigger backseat, you know, same sort of thing. It couldn't be more different, and it has surprised me, and it disappointed her. She didn't like the long travel on the clutch, which I agree is far too long, and even with my long legs, like a fully depressed clutch is hard, and it's hard work. She didn't like the size of the car or anything, so she felt that it wasn't really secure on the road, and that's a characteristic of a 911, so the front ends are normally quite, I don't know how to describe, they're kind of light. The weight is all over the back wheels, obviously, whereas the Cayman, the engine's in the middle, so it's a bit more of a balanced car. These have got very little weight over the front compared with the back, so it makes the front end a little bit nervous. It can be considered fun, but also from a passenger point of view, probably not fun, probably scary, like you're not in control. I would say I feel in control of the car, but I think from a passenger perspective, they don't think I'm in control, so yeah, it's not as planted on the road as the Cayman. But overall, like I said, over the past few days, this car has grown on me. I will be sad to give it back. Could have done with it for a little bit longer, maybe like a month, and I think I'd have started to see some different things about it that I enjoyed. But at this moment in time, I don't think there's a 991 coming to the channel now. I think I need to broaden my search, maybe start looking back at previous 911s, such as the 997 Generation 2, like the GTS, or even the base Carrera, as it turns out. Something like that might just fit the bill. I would also absolutely love to have a go in the newest generation of 911. Again, I've heard things about how it's too big, too cumbersome. Maybe it's a similar story to this, I don't know. And being turboed, totally different characteristic. Because the best thing about this car is that noise. And with this sports exhaust, it sounds absolutely glorious. It's so nice. It's so much nicer than the Cayman. But before we wrap up this video, let's talk about the performance of this. So how does the performance of this compare with the Cayman? Well, the Cayman, I would say, is more eager to go. The Cayman is very eager from very low RPM, very low speed. and you put your foot down and it just tears off. Whereas this, it's a little bit lazy low down in revs, and when I'm meaning low down, I'm meaning between 2.5 and 3, or even 3 and 4. That's fourth gear between 2.5, and it's not blistering, it's fairly sluggish. Get this past 5,000 revs and all hell breaks loose and the car pulls like a train. Like, the difference between this and the Cayman is night and day, to be honest. It's so much more powerful. So there's 4,000, but you'll hear it as it, there we go. And now it's pulling like crazy. So yeah, you have to rag them, and I would say that's actually a big drawback to the 911 as well. So the Caymans are often criticised for the fact you have to rev them out to get any sort of performance. The 911, you don't necessarily hear that too much about it. You certainly don't hear about the turbo, so I'm guessing the turbo is just a more all-round powerful car. But the Carreras, you do have to rev them, like really rev them. And when you look down at the speedo, you're in license banning territory, if not prison sentence territory. So to enjoy this car properly, you're going to need to go on a track. And for that, you probably don't want the base Carrera with these normal seats. I don't know. I find it quite a confusing car. I think it's just not quite right for me. And I know that sounds mental, and I'm genuinely surprised by that. But yeah, it's not the right car for me at the moment. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed the old school nature of it. I feel like I've gone back to my roots now, just shoving the camera in the screen, having a chat about my thoughts about my Porsche, and now another one. And yeah, I hope it's given you a bit of an insight into how I feel about the 911. I know there'll be a lot of people that don't agree with me. That's absolutely fine. But, you know, it's just what I take from this car in the short space of time I've had it. I really do hope that you have enjoyed watching all these videos on the 911. It's been amazing making them. It's been such an opportunity. And I just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to SUV Prestige for lending me this car. Those guys are awesome. Like, they just sprung it on me. It was a total surprise, and it's been one of the best days since starting YouTube. The opportunity that this has given me to do content for you guys is crazy. But yeah, those guys are absolutely awesome. So if you don't already subscribe to their YouTube channel, or you don't follow them on any of the socials, then make sure you check the description on this video and any of the other videos on the 911, and it'll take you straight to all their socials. So please make sure to give them a like, pop into the garage and speak to them and tell them it's sent by me. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, for plenty more videos to come. I'll see you next time. Bye.